Hi everyone, welcome to this video. Today in this art tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you how to make a coaster or hot pad like the one in front of me using our t-shirt string. So let's go ahead and get started. What you're going to need to make this hot pad or coaster is going to be at least one ball of t-shirt string. So if you've cut up one t-shirt, that should be enough, but if you have two balls of t-shirt string that are different colors, that will be more fun for you to work with today. I myself have 4 colors in front of me right here. You'll need a pair of scissors, and then you'll also need a spiral notebook, and you will find out why in a little bit. Now, there's going to be some things that you should know before we get started. I'm going to start at the bottom and move up. The first word here says weaving. Weaving is what we're going to be doing. It's just the craft or action of forming fabric by interlacing threads. So everything that you wear is woven. However, we are going to be forming a hot pad or coaster using our t-shirt string. We're going to be weaving and interlacing that t-shirt string to make a hot pad. The next thing to know is what a loom is. A loom is simply a device that holds the string so that it makes it easier for you to weave. Our loom that we're going to be using today is a spiral notebook. I'm going to show you how to string your loom so that you can weave your string easier. The two weaves that we're going to be using are a plain weave and a basket weave. A plain weave is simply over, under, over, under, over, under. It just, with every string, you're going to go over and under. A basket weave is very similar to that. You're just going to go over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2. Alright, so those are the two weaves that we're going to be working with today. And how about we get our loom ready? Friends, what you need in front of you to start off is going to be your scissors, your spiral notebook loom, and a ball of your string. The first step is going to be winding this string right through one of these sides so that it's kind of tough, so that it pulls through like this. And then what I just do is tie it in a little bow. And then from there, what you're going to do is pull it across the front of your notebook and then around the back, and then put it into every other spiral notebook until you have between 10 and 15 strings on your loom. So once you guys have your loom strung up, you can move to the next step with me. I used 14 strings across the front. Go ahead and flip your loom over just like this. I still have my string ball attached right here. I'm just going to cut it off up here and then tie it over onto my string next to it. So I just made a little knot, a simple knot. Flip it over and we have our loom all set up and ready to go. Now, what you're going to want to do is choose your first color that you want to start along the bottom. I am going to use my blue color. And with this blue color, I'll unravel it just a little bit. And then I'm going to start with my plain weave. And remember, the plain weave is simply going over, under, over, under, over, under. So I'll start under and I'm going to go just repeat that pattern going over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. And once I've done that, I can bring it over a little bit on this side so I have a couple inches that go past the edge there. And I'm going to cut off a couple inches along this side as well, just like that. And then for this next string, I'm going to do the opposite of what this one did. So this first string right here is going under. So I'm going to choose to go over that one and then under, so that it's going opposite of the string before it. Once I finish doing that string, putting it all the way through, I'm going to push it down next to my other string and then let it hang off the edge just like I did before. And I'll cut this end of the string off next to that one. So I'm just going to do a couple more of these blue strings, creating a stripe right here, and then you can do that with me. I'm just going to fast forward through this next part. You can see that as I'm moving on, I'm pushing my strings into each other, close into each other, just like this, so that I see less of my loom string right here. Because when I press them together, and you'll see on your looms as well, that you're going to see less of this gray string. Okay, so now I'm going to teach you guys the basket weave. And remember, the basket weave is over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2. Okay, so I'm going to start going under my first 2, over my second 2, and now for the next weave, I'm going to do the opposite, just like what I did before. I'm going to go, I see that I went under the first 2 here, so I'm going to go over the first 2, under the second 2, and then continue doing that, starting on my right side here. So I'm going to keep doing a few more basket weaves so that we can see the difference between our plain weave and our basket weave. And you can see that my basket weave has a slightly different texture or look than my plain weave does. The basket weave sits up a little bit higher off of the loom, and it also has longer lines right here than my plain weave. And that's because we've simply gone over 2 lines instead of just over 1 line. So now I want you to try doing this all on your own using your plain weave and your basket weave. Plain weave going over, under, and then the basket weave going over 2, under 2. All right? So go ahead and try doing that on your own. I'm going to continue weaving my hot pad on here. So I want to say one quick note as you keep going creating your hot pads. If you realize, oh no, I have messed up, I did not do the perfect over, under, or over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, that's fine. Just keep going. It will hide itself away and you won't even notice. If you have your weaving strung up almost all the way to the top, just like me right here, you are basically a pro. But the next step, since we have it almost all the way to the top here, is going to be to start finishing off our edges and taking it off of our loom. So to start doing that process, we're going to start tying the edges on both sides before we take it off our loom. So I'll show you what it looks like here. I'm going to take my first 2 pieces of string at the bottom and just tie them in a double knot. Now, I want to be careful not to pull this in when I tie the knot. I'll show you again what I mean. If I pull it in too tight like that, it's going to make it smaller. So we want to leave it a little bit loose. just a little bit loose, not too loose so that it starts to become unwoven. But we're going to do a double knot for every string. You have to find the 2 strings at the bottom. So I'm just going to keep tying my next 2 strings in a double knot each time. If you end up at the top with an uneven number, you tie 2 strings, and then you're like, oh no, I have 1 left. Just go ahead and tie that 3rd and last string onto your last 2 strings. I'm just going to keep tying this side. So I have finished tying up 1 whole side of my coaster or my hot pad, and now I'm going to do that same exact thing with the other side. So now that we have tied both sides off, it's going to be time to take our weaving off of the loom. And how you're going to be doing that is just flip it on over so that you see the back side. Grab your scissors and then cut right in the middle, all the way up. And then you can just take your weaving off. However, we've tied a bow on there, so just go ahead and pull one end of that bow to take it off. And then I'm going to flip it back over so that one end of these strings is facing me. When it's facing you, just like this, you can start tying off the ends just like what you've done already. Remembering not to pull it in way too far so that it pushes in, because that would make our weaving get smaller. So I'm just going to continue tying off all these ends, doing double knots. And then I'll flip it over and do the same thing on this other side. If you want to, you can cut down some of the strings that you used on your loom, these gray strings here. You can cut them a little bit shorter so that they look more like these other sides of your coaster. And voila, you've finished making your first hot pad and coaster just using the t-shirt string that you've already made. Thank you so much for creating these with me today. I hope that you enjoyed making them. Feel free to keep on making and trying new ones. Using different colors, you can use different colors to make stripes and keep creating.